Good morning. Good morning. Welcome to another Monday on the Daily Huddle, where we talk about money and mindset and things like that. And so I'm glad to see your faces. And for those of you I can't see, welcome also. If you're streaming us or watching us recorded, we're glad that you're here and that you're joining us. Good morning.
So yeah, welcome. I'm Kimberly. This is Zack. Sometimes he forgets to tell you who we are. You didn't tell him, did you?
I did not. No.
Yeah, so I'll come in and tell you. But welcome and thanks for joining us today. We're super excited. We're going to talk to you guys today about the habits of the wealthy and which ones we should copy. But before we do that.
Yeah. So in the interest of fun, today I went into work and my boss came in a brand new car and I was just so enamored with it. I told him how nice it was. And he said, "Thank you so much. If you keep working hard and you keep doing everything I ask you to do, I'll be able to buy another one next year."
Oh, your cheesy jokes. And everybody's muted, so only a little gets to laugh. Makes it even worse.
Because you have to laugh.
I have to laugh. Well, good morning, guys. Thanks for joining us today on this super happy Monday. So if you've been with us before, you know that we get right into the question and the conversation for the day. But before we do, we have a couple of questions for you guys. So who should I start with? I think I'm going to start with Chase. Chase, what time is it? And what are you grateful for?
Grand day. The time is absolutely now, as it always is. And today I am grateful for the power of New York City.
You know, one day I'm coming to New York City and I want you to tour me.
I will do it. You'll be happy. You need a lot of film in your camera and a lot of stamina. So get your sleep.
It's happening, Chase. So
awesome.
I was like, which kid? My 15-year-old is like obsessed with New York City. So she's always like, "Can we please go?" So
she's been
coming. Well, she has, but she wants to go again.
You got it. You're scheduled. You're on the queue.
Okay. All right. You're the official tour guide. Anybody else wants to go? Call Chase. He'll hook you up. Kurt, nice to see you this morning. So where are you and who will you hug today?
In Milwaukee, Wisconsin.
Oh, welcome. And who are you going to hug today, Kurt?
Well, we have my wife and daughter and their dog, and so yeah, we've got a little huddle of our own over here.
Awesome. Well, welcome to the Daily Huddle. Thanks for joining us. All right, last question for you.
Emily, I see your picture down there. How are you today?
I am good.
That is great. Yeah. We're exactly how we say we are, right? So we're in the right place at the right time with the right mindset, and I'm glad to see all of your faces. So Kimberly and I have been in the business of what we would say, to be cliche, bringing Wall Street to Main Street for about 21 years now. And we are excited to talk about simply that. There are not really secrets, but they're habits that we don't create, or most average people don't create, because they just don't know any better, or because we're in a track of getting bad advice or bad habits from previous generations. There's the gap between the wealthy and the middle class, or whatever you would say, continues to grow, but not a lot of things have changed as far as their habits and the things that they do versus the habits of those who don't get ahead financially. So that's what we want to talk to you guys about this morning, is what financial habits of the wealthy should we know about and should we copy? So we're gonna go through that and talk a little bit about each one of these things, and then we'll open it up for Q&A. Each one of these bullet points could probably be a 15 or 20-minute conversation about what do they mean? What does that mean? So our goal this morning is to get your thoughts provoked, and then we can address that later, either through a direct message, or we can address that possibly some in the Q&A at the end of our brief chat here. So we're going to go ahead and share a screen and get started on this. So there are several things that might seem self-explanatory. When you see them and you hear about them, you've probably heard them before, but we'll talk a little bit about what that means to apply those into your life on a daily basis. So what are these habits? Number one, don't leave money sitting idle. A lot of people that are not what they would consider themselves as wealthy or have spare money, they think that keeping what money they have in an absolutely protected cash status is the best way to be safe. It's the best way to do those kind of things. When in actuality, when you've got a situation like we've had this last year, where inflation is higher than it's been in decades, if not ever, your money in a cash status is only becoming worth less. Not worth less yet, right? But it's becoming worth less. So you need to be smart about that. Make sure that wherever you have your money sitting, it actually has the potential to at least keep up with or outpace inflation.
And this is outside of your emergency fund. We obviously know that we all need money in an emergency fund, and that does need to be liquid and available and accessible for an emergency. But outside of that emergency fund, put your money to work. Allow your money to make money for you, because that's the goal behind investing. Focus on the signal, not the noise. So many of us, and we've talked about this before, so many of us focus on the minutia of everything that we do, right? Like we get down in the details and we look at it and we nitpick every single thing. And really, we should be focused on the big picture. We should be focused on where we are at the end of this year and where we are at the end of next year. And did we grow? Has our net worth grown? Like, what does that look like? Of course, you have to focus on some of the details to allow that to grow, but realistically, it is a big picture vision and a big picture conversation. And you've got financial advisors and people like that are going to focus on those details for you. You just have that vision of where you're going, and you allow yourself to continue to grow.
Yeah, we call that the Yahoo investing is what we used to call it. Every morning you'd see Yahoo News tell you a little bit about what the roller coaster ride was. And in our financial management approach, we look at the underlying economy. We don't look at what the news says today. We look at what the underlying things are. So focusing on the signal, not the noise, when it comes to investing and growth.
And then live below your means. We've all heard that, right? If we spend every single thing that we make, we have nothing left to improve ourselves, to improve our future, to create wealth, to look at things like that. So it doesn't mean, I've seen some of the extreme, if you will, I was trying to think of the word.
Extreme penny pinching.
If you will, where people not buy a new pair of pants for 4 years until they're out of debt. Well, you might need a new pair of pants, right? So maybe go get them at the thrift store, but live below your means. Don't put yourself in poverty, but live below your means so you can afford to do more and spend more and have that ability to invest and protect your future.
Yep. If you can't pay for it, don't buy it. If you can't afford to pay for it outright, don't buy it. The buying a TV for $15 a month is where a lot of people get trapped. But there's that kind of a duplicate of what we're going to talk about in a second. Don't pay interest. So the one exception to this, I'll throw this out there, is a mortgage. I think that using your funds to pay down a mortgage is probably not the brightest thing to do, depending on what that rate is. But it's all has to be part of a greater plan, right? But when we talk about credit card interest rates in the mid 20s to high 20s, and you go into the department store and they give you 40% off for buying things on your on opening a new credit card account, right? The Belks is one I can think of, where they have these crazy sales, and if you open a new account, you get an additional 20% off. Well, most people rack it up and then can't afford to pay it off at the end of the month, so then they end up paying that 20 to 30% interest rate. And eating up all their savings, paying for those clothes or whatever it was 3 or 4 times. So the wealthy don't pay interest. They don't pay high interest on anything like that.
A good rule of thumb that I read recently in a book, it's called Wealth Habits by Candy Valentino. You grab it. It's okay. But anyway, one of the things that she says in there, she uses the 7% rule, or the rule of 7. I don't know what she calls it, but she says anything above 7% you should pay off, right? Because your money should be able to earn at least that or more, but anything above that you should pay off. And like Zack said, I'm a huge fan of mortgages. I think mortgages are one of the best financial tools you could ever use to grow your portfolio, to grow your wealth, and to really create that legacy for yourself and for future generations. So we're not talking about mortgage interest, but we are talking about all other high interest credit card debt and things like that. Monitor your income and expenses. Know where your money is going, know where it's coming from, know where it's going, and just be a good student of your business, of your income, right? Understand what that looks like, understand where you can cut corners, where you can't cut corners. We've talked about this before, where most people spend 95% of their time focused on their budget, right? On their expenses and seeing what they can cut out. I think that's something you should do maybe once or twice a year, is review all of your expenses and look at them, especially with our streaming services and our credit card, the things that we put on for the free trial that, 6 months later, you're like, wow, what is this $15 a month coming out of my account for? Maybe you should look at things like that once every 6 months, but also focus on income. Where is your income coming from? If you have a traditional job, if you're an employee, you've got that W-2 income coming in, awesome. But where else can you get more income, right? Can you go start a lawn business? Can you flip things on eBay or Poshmark? Do you want to come work with us in the financial services world? Whatever that is, look for other sources of income so you can monitor and manage that income and expenses.
Yeah, and that goes directly into putting value on your time. This is Kimberly's thing.
This is my favorite.
We have I agree with her stance, let me say, but I was raised by 2 school teachers, and I also cut my own lawn and cut my parents' lawn. I sometimes thought that was why I was born, was to make sure that their yard looked good. But that was what I did. And so one of the things I have a hard time with is paying somebody to come cut my yard now and take care of all those kind of things. It is fantastic when they come in and they do that. And I am way too picky and spend way too much time doing it myself. So in this sense, and the same thing goes along on the flip side of, we have somebody that we pay to clean our house, and it's not because we are unable to.
She's one of my most favorite people in the world.
But when it comes time to spending time with your kids and doing things that you want to do, and also working in your business, there's a good chance that if you're productive or you're focused on it, your value has more, your time has more value than what it's going to cost you to pay someone to do those types of tasks. So that's where put a value on your time is. Pay somebody else. If you can make more than you're going to pay them in those 2 hours that it would take you to do that, pay someone else to do that, and you go stay in the world that you make money in.
And it doesn't mean that like Zack really does like to cut the yard, right? It doesn't mean he can't go out there and do more things. It just means that on a consistent every 2-week basis, when we walk outside, the yard's cut, right? Because sometimes in our lives that wouldn't actually happen. Another thing to look at if you own a business or you run a business is where you spend your time in your business. So really take that and really take this internal approach and say, what do I do every single day? Right? And write it down and say, this is what I do today. So here's Monday. This is what I'm doing today. And out of those tasks, what of those things can you contract out, hire someone for, pay hourly, whatever that looks like. But in order to figure that out, you got to figure out how much your time is worth. So think about your income, right? Divide it by how many hours you work per week, per year. And then think about that. If you can make more than that amount, or it's going to cost you less than that amount, then you should hire that out because you're still in a positive cash flow. And I think that's where we get caught a lot of times in our business, right? You guys have all seen the Kiyosaki cash flow quadrant, where we go from employee to self-employed to business owner to investor. And a lot of times as a business owner, we're really self-employed because we're not allowing the people that could come in and do the administrative work for $20 an hour, right? We're not giving them that administrative work because it's our job, right? We want to hold that and control that. Therefore, our business doesn't actually grow because we're still stuck in the details over here instead of focusing on the signal like we were talking about before. So that's another spin spend on putting value on your time. If you can make more than it's going to cost you, hire that out. Allow other people to do those details, and you save the magic for what you do. Because if you're a business owner, you probably are the one that's creating the magic.
Yeah, I had a mentor tell me one time that take a look at your day and everything that you do, and if you see yourself as a multiple six-figure income earner, but what you do every day could be replaced with a $45,000 a year salary, then you're leaving a lot on the table, right? Even if your cash flow is good and it's where you want it to be, what could you do if you paid somebody else to do that and you thought about growth and you
Because your
thought about
mind is
doing those kind of
cluttered,
things?
right?
Yeah.
Like it allows you to really grow and focus on growth.
Yep. Set life goals and have a financial plan. Again, the goals piece, and we talk about living below our means, up above that. Nobody likes to think about that. We want things to grow. We want this. So I would tell you, instead of saying I can't afford that, I would say, how can I afford that? Right? So if it's something you want to do, if it's a trip, if it's a new house, if it's something that you want to buy, a new car, whatever, don't go out and live like you can afford it now if you can't. But say to yourself, how can I afford that? Don't say I can't. That's very defeatist. It changes your mindset. But if you say, how can I, then that changes that. So set goals and then reward yourself periodically as you get there. Don't reward yourself before you get to the goals. Don't say, I really want this. I'm going to buy it now and I'm going to go work hard and pay for it. Say, you know what? I'm going to set these periodic goals. And when I get to this one, this is what I'm going to do as a reward for myself. When I get to this one, this is what I'm going to do. And the key to setting life goals, and the financial plan is part of that, is when you set these goals, you have to write them down. And you have to write them down in the present tense as if they've already happened. So if I want to do something in 2024, then I need to say it's December 31st, 2024, and it has been a fantastic year. These are the things that we did. So I'd never realized how great this was going to feel. I was able to get this. I was able to do this. I was able to accomplish this. And then you got to read that statement every day. Your subconscious mind is incredibly powerful. It's not going to earn your money in the stock market, right? It's not going to change what you actually get as a rate of return, but it will change your outlook on everything. And strangely enough, positive mindset attracts positive people and positive
Results,
events.
actions,
Yeah.
life, everything.
Financial plan, simply that. You got to know where you are, know where you need to get to, and you got to have a plan in place that encompasses all of your financial pieces. Everything that costs you, everything that you do on a daily basis that's financial needs to be a part of that plan. Otherwise, you might have two pieces that are working against each other.
And it's okay for that plan to change, right? It's going to ebb and flow and it's going to change, and you're going to have some modifications and corrections and things like that. But ultimately, you still need to have that big picture. You still need to have that big vision, so that as you look at your financial plan a couple of times a year, you know where you're going, what that looks like, and that you're moving towards your goals. And then obviously, if you guys haven't read Think and Grow Rich, that's one of the lessons inside Think and Grow Rich, is how to set your goals and how to read them every morning and every night, as if they've already happened, and really create that in your subconscious mind. I would tell you that for most successful people, it's in their top 5 books of all times that they've read. So if you haven't read it, put it on your to-do list, buy it on Amazon right now, and go read that book, because it is literally life-changing. Anytime we've intentionally set goals, and I don't know why, sometimes you get out of habit of things, but anytime we've intentionally set goals and actually read them every morning and every evening, it just happens. I don't know why. It's like magic. It's like if you do one of the vision boards. If you guys have ever done a vision board and you cut these beautiful pictures out of magazines and paste it on this board, I promise you, like, we've pulled some out a couple of years later and we're like, oh my God,
It's all here.
look at this. And it's not even something that's in your mind always every single day, but it just happens because you've got that subconscious intention that you're putting out into the world.
Yeah.
Another thing is to use insurance strategically. We talk a lot about this. So of course, insurance is necessary for income replacement, period, right? We should all have life insurance for income replacement, but it's also a great tool for estate planning and tax planning and legacy planning. And you can talk more about that too. But the rules of the wealthy and things that they do is they use insurance strategically, not just as an income replacement. So that's another piece as well, is to evaluate your portfolio, evaluate your financial plan, and make sure that those pieces are in there to use as a tool.
Yeah, it's there have been many multiple billion-dollar families, and there's really only one of them that has continued to stay wealthy and across the board, and that's the Rockefellers. And that's one of the things that's been at the core of what they did, was in their estate planning and in their wealth planning, generation planning, all the way to this be your own bank strategy a lot of people talk about. They've done that. Their family banking, all those kind of things, but also they use insurance. Everybody's going to die at some point in time, right? So they use that inevitability to create wealth, not necessarily to just offset expenses. So insurance, it's not a one size fits all, one stop shop, but it's definitely a good piece to a financial plan, to a financial strategy.
I was just going to say, before we move to the next one, there is a book, I think it's called What Would the Rockefellers Do, right? And it talks about using life insurance strategically and things like that, while we're plugging all these books today.
Yeah.
Maybe we need a book club.
Well, I mean, I think
Huddle book club.
I think that goes to one of the things that we'll talk about in just a minute, which is, all right, stick to a budget. All right. So here we are back. We've gone from focus on the signal. We've gone to live below your noise. And now we're all the way back to stick to a budget. Stick to it. It's very, very hard for us in this immediate gratification world that we live in to literally stick to our budget. But if you systematically invest and you stick to your budget, which are these two right here, it will get you down the road, right? It's a habit thing. Habitually invest. It's not something that you can't just consciously decide every month, how much am I going to put in my investment account this month? It's got to be systematic. It's got to be habitual, and you've got to be able to afford to do it. So stick to a budget, habitually invest.
And I think for entrepreneurs, sometimes, we allow the fluctuation of our income, because we all have fluctuating income as an entrepreneur, right? Some months are amazing, some months aren't, but we allow the fluctuation of our income to change our habits and change our investment choices. And that is something that needs to be absolute. Can you always do more? Of course you can. You have a great month, then don't let that money sit idle, right? Pull it over, do something with it. But habitually, you need to decide what you can put away every single month, and you need to have money going into your savings account automatically. You guys know this because we've talked about it, but all of our bills are on auto pay, right? Probably most of your bills are on auto pay. You're never going to miss them. You're never going to have a credit ding for a $25 credit card. You can always overpay it, all of those different things. It's on auto pay, so we don't have to think about it, right? It is a habitual way that I pay my bills, is automatically every single month. We need to do exactly the same thing with investing. So I'm not talking about our lump sums. I'm talking about our monthly consistent. This is what's happening every single month in your savings account and in your investment accounts. So there's no chance, there's no choice. It's what you're doing every single month. And again, if you have a great month and you make more money, or you get a tax return back, or you get an inheritance, or whatever, you win the lottery, then you can take that and you can say, okay, I don't want to leave this money sitting idle. What am I going to do with it? And think about that differently. But every single month, you need to be obsessive about habitually investing.
Yeah. And then finally, acquire financial knowledge and skills. That's where the books come in. That's where don't leave your retirement, don't leave your financial success up to chance, and know exactly what, it's very interesting. And I think some of this comes to the fact that they have some of this knowledge, but the smaller the account that we're looking to transfer or we're looking to invest with our clients, usually becomes more and more difficult to get them to make a decision, to get them to actually commit, because because they don't have the knowledge of what there are and what these options are that are out there. So don't be sold, but also don't be overwhelmingly distrusting. Read books, gain knowledge, listen to podcasts. We don't get our information from one place. We have been doing this for a long time, but it was actually ironic when we were looking for things to talk about, because we wanted to get this 30,000 foot view of what you should learn out. There are 16 of these actually, and we didn't go over all 16 of them because a couple of them are, pretty monstrous, like unrealized gains and things like that. But they came from a group called the Forbes Financial Council that is a worldwide group of financial industry professionals in the money management business, in the tax world, in the corporate world. And they all agree on these things being the differentiating factors between financial success and the lack thereof. So acquiring that knowledge and those skills is important, and they're not just going to come to you. And you guys are here this morning.
I was like, be on the daily huddle
So-
every Monday morning.
Yeah. And then finally, take educated risks. So when it's not always, I mean, you've probably heard the stories. I know Kimberly's grandparents lived beachfront folly for years in a house that they rented, and it was right on the beach. And then Hurricane Hugo hit in 1989, and the people that they were renting from offered to sell them that house for $90,000. And that was just a stretch. That was a little farther than they could go, was that $90,000. And I think that house is no longer there, but the dirt that house was sitting on is worth several $1,000,000 with no house on it. And now there's, of course, a massive house on it. But take educated risks.
Stretch a little.
Stretch a little. You know, that doesn't mean go buy the TV. That doesn't mean live beyond your means. That means if it's an investment risk and it's educated and you've had the knowledge and you've got some professional help in those things, don't be afraid to take an educated risk.
So I'm sure we all have stories like that, and we all can, share those experiences of our family, and just, those are life lessons that we all learn through others' mistakes, successes, and failures. And that's how we learn money, because it's not taught in our schools. So it's so important to share those conversations. Why don't we take just a few minutes? I know we only have a few minutes left, but anybody have any comments or conversation or questions about what we shared today? You think they're shy?
I don't know. Nobody
Think
ever
they're
wants to be first.
sleeping?
Well, I will tell you this, and if you want to just unmute, you can unmute and interrupt me. But these concepts are they're for everyone, and I'm passionate about this. Whether somebody's just getting started in the investing world, I see Kurt, you unmuted. You want to chime in?
Well, as we're listening to you as an individual on here, it kind of gets you really honed in on any adjustment or, kind of looking at what you're saying and to follow the guideline and to change something for myself. But with the two of you there, and then when you consult couples, that you might have one person might react to what you're saying a little differently. What do you kind of do with couples to kind of help them get on the same page? Because like in terms of marriages, finances can be kind of those stressful conversations that actually really get a couple repelling each other. So how do you handle that side of it?
We probably have different answers. Go ahead.
Well, I think first of all, we always meet with the couple. If at all possible, we meet with both of them at the same time, and we run our system a little differently than your mahogany office financial advisor, right? So we always start with a conversation with the couple, husband, wife, whatever, right? And I always start with goals and dreams, and we always want to hear that first. And I think by both of you or both of them sharing their goals and dreams and their hopes and aspirations, because we dig into it, right? Like I want to hear it. And if you're not dreaming enough, then we're going to keep talking until you kind of pull some of that out of you. I think once that happens and you guys hear those dreams and goals and really buy into each other's dreams and goals, the rest of it doesn't matter, because it does put you on the same page, because you are together, you do see, you do understand, and you're on that path. I have had lots of conversations before where, we get to the credit cards and people are like, you have what? Credit cards, like it does become an uncomfortable situation, but it's a safe space. And everybody, in order to move forward, we have to start, right? And sometimes it won't be fun and sometimes it won't be comfortable, but as long as we all agree on the end goal and the dreams, I find most people figure it out, even if they're angry for a minute.
Yeah, it is funny too, because we have a list of 10 things on a piece of paper that are major financial goals that most people would have, kind of in a categorical sense, right? Getting out of debt or, saving for kids' college. And we give, if we have a couple, and they share finances, we give them each that sheet and we tell them they can't cheat off of each other, right? We need you to rank these 10 things in order of what's important to you. And then we need your spouse to rank these things in order of what's important to them. And then we kind of unveil those things to them and talk through it. But usually when you take a holistic approach to the financial plan, and like Kimberly said, the end goal is the result, we might show them that both of them are out of order, or that no one's really right or wrong, that we're going to accomplish all these goals and everybody's going to get to the point where they want to get, as long as we do it in this manner. So good question. It's always about open communication. But in our world, if the finances are shared, then we got to talk to both of the people. It never fails. Even if someone says, my husband doesn't want to meet, I can make all these decisions myself. Let's do this. You get to the bottom line and it comes time to make a decision or make a change. And they say, well, I've got to run this by my husband, or I've got to run this by my wife. And then a lot's lost in translation. So we try to do all that financial therapy, if you will, while we're sitting there at the table with everybody. So
There's a lot of therapy involved, right? A lot of life coaching and things that just come from years of experience, but it all works out in the end because ultimately
communication is
together.
king.
Yeah,
that's it. So, well, guys, we have been glad to be here as usual. We missed you guys last week, but I understand it was a fantastic Monday morning. But as we leave today, let's remind you of our 8 tenets. Love, get out there and love, laugh out loud, find something funny, find something to be happy about, stress less, eat mostly plant-based, take care of your body, give whatever you can, sleep. I didn't do much of that last night because our daughter was traveling abroad and she landed at 3 a.m. our time, but sleep, move, get your exercise in. And then finally, give yourself a pause. Check yourself before you wreck yourself. Give yourself a minute before you react to whatever situation's coming at you. So thank you guys very much. We've enjoyed it, and we will see you same time, same place tomorrow on the Daily Huddle.
bye guys. Bye.
Bye.